Tip with a status update on this relatively light night, 4 games around the association. Let's start here from the bottom and work our way up. DeAndre Ayton out the second half of the home-and-home with Minnesota. Karl Anthony Towns feasted the other night. We'll see if he can do it again. Jeff Teague's questionable tonight with an illness for Minnesota. Meanwhile, Dennis Smith Jr. is probable from his illness, which we'll talk about in a bit. Meanwhile, De'Aaron Fox will miss his first game of the season tonight. The most improved player candidate is out. So is Nemanja Bjelica. So 2/5 of the starters out for Sacramento. But the big news is Kawhi Leonard won't play tonight after missing the last couple of games. Is he nursing an injury?
And it's just a load management thing still, right? I think he's played about 35, 36 games now, right? After playing 9 a year ago. And it was just a chance to get him some extended rest. But we are definitely sitting him out this back-to-back, and he's definitely going to play Friday in Houston.
Is there any additional injury that's being monitored, or is it just the load?
Just the load.
All right, let's take you around the NBA. Go to Toronto, where the Raptors are hosting the Kings tonight, and Josh Lewenberg covers the Raptors for TSN Sports. Josh, this is a bit head-scratching here with Kawhi. It appears kind of not playing his way ultimately out of the MVP conversation with missing all these games. Is this shocking to you that he's not playing tonight and tomorrow night against the Pacers?
It's surprising. I think probably more surprising than this back-to-back is that he sat out on Saturday against Memphis. That was the only game in 4 days. I mean, listen, this is unusual for a fully healthy player, allegedly, for a healthy 27-year-old player to miss 4 straight games for rest. But let's face it, just about everything about Kawhi's season last year in San Antonio and even this season in Toronto has been unusual. This is a unique situation for Kawhi and the Raptors this year, and the Raptors are managing it that way.
Josh, do you get any sense as to whether this is Kawhi's choice or whether this is coming from within the organization, be it the front office, the medical staff, to protect Kawhi, in essence, to continue recruiting him to sign long-term this summer?
It really seems like a little bit of both, and it's definitely, at least in part, Kawhi's decision. And I only say that because Kyle Lowry was supposed to sit out last week. He was already ruled out in the afternoon, and he forced his way into the lineup. So if Kawhi really wanted to be out there, I think he'd be out there. But it's worth noting that he briefly left last week's double overtime win in Washington, I should say, with left leg tightness. He did come back and finish that game, and then he played a few days later in Boston, a big game. But it wouldn't surprise me, even though you hear Nick Nurse say that he's healthy, it has nothing to do with the injury. It wouldn't surprise me if the Raptors looked at that sort of mini injury scare and said, all right, let's reevaluate things a little bit. Let's not take any chances in late January and maybe give him some extended rest. He'll have 4 games and over a week off before he returns in Houston on Friday.
One other theory to go along with this, separate and independent, I know it's hard to do this from the Kawhi recruitment, is also the Raptors have told us the 1 seed is not important to them because what they do in the playoffs is most important. Is this another example of that?
There are 2 goals that the Raptors are locked in right now over the next 6 months, and pretty much only 2 goals that they are locked in on, and that's making it to the finals and competing for a championship, and then convincing Kawhi to stay. So I do think these rest nights have something to do with both of those things. I mean, obviously, by minimizing the risk here and hopefully for their sake, maximizing the chances of him being 100% in the playoffs, that increases their chances of competing for a championship. But also in terms of keeping him, Bobby Webster talked about this the other day, of course, the Raptors GM. He said that when they first sat down with Kawhi, they asked him, what's important to you? And most people don't know what's important to him because we don't really know Kawhi, but he said, maintaining my health. So for them going out of their way in situations like this to show him, to prove to him that your health is important to us, I think that for them could go a long way in ultimately convincing Kawhi to stay.
Great reporting by Josh Lewenberg from TSN Sports. Raptors without Kawhi again tonight and tomorrow night. Load management as the Raptors host the Kings on League Pass. Josh, thanks for joining us. Moving on to a story that has us scratching our head as well. What's going on in Dallas with Dennis Smith Jr.? Luka Doncic takes a stab at it.
He's a great player, so I told you, I miss him in the court, the way he plays, his defense, his attack. I know we miss him for sure.
Well, the Dallas Mavericks have played the last 6 without Dennis Smith Jr. They've lost the last 4 of those games. Listen, this is a Dallas team who wants to make a playoff push here. What is your take on the illness that kept Dennis Smith Jr. away and reportedly will have him back potentially tonight, and what Dallas does with him between now and the trade deadline 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, it's really a strange situation. I mean, life comes at you fast. I mean, this time last year, Dallas had an amazing rookie. Dennis Smith Jr. was playing very well. And of course, now they have another amazing rookie, but he's on another level and he's controlling the ball. That's what Dennis Smith Jr. did last year. So I think it's sort of like a conflict between the two players. Not personally, they like each other, but their styles are clashing. And I think Dennis Smith Jr.'s people are probably wondering whether or not he would be better suited on another team, in another situation. Maybe that'll help him next year, because you also have to understand after next year, he'll be contract extension eligible. So, don't discount the money in this either. I think Dennis Jr. wants this to be a comfortable fit, whether that's with the Mavericks or whether that's with another team. And that's up to the Mavericks to decide.
Yeah, Sean, I want to update you on a story that's just coming out here from Tim McMahon of ESPN, who got a quote before tonight's game from Mark Cuban about the reported conflict between Dennis Smith Jr. and the head coach. Mark Cuban says, quote, "He just wants his guys to come back and go to work. Look, if you just watch a game, it's rare when there's a game when a player's not mad at someone on the coaching staff." He says, Mark Cuban does, it's just part of the game. So not totally squashing that there may be something to the rift that's been reported between Dennis Smith Jr. and Rick Carlisle.
Yeah, it could be, because Rick Carlisle's a no-nonsense coach. You saw him with Rajon Rondo, a couple years ago. You saw that little tip they got into. Carlisle also has a lot of power within the Mavericks organization, so he's not a coach that's, under any kind of stress. The organization has full confidence in him, but again, you're talking about a young player who's just looking to find his way, and a stubborn old coach.
All right, Sean Powell joining us from the NBA.com West Coast Bureau tonight. We'll see 2 weeks from Thursday, the NBA trade deadline. Appreciate you joining us here, Sean. Check his work out on NBA.com. We're getting you ready for players only. Lillard and the Blazers looking for a 4th straight win. They've won 7 of 9 coming in. We'll wrap things up strong by giving you a little say what and taking you courtside next. Only. Then before tip number 2, which was buzzing today around the NBA. Finding new ways to trim a beard. Corey Brewer made it pretty interesting last night, but James Harden still got to 37 points. The Rockets lost. However, Harden extended his streak of consecutive games, scoring at least 30 to 20 straight. Only Wilt Chamberlain has done that in the NBA's history. Now, over the last 4 games, the Beard has scored a total of 200 points, and every single one of those 200 points have come unassisted. No assists for Harden. Just one of those nights. That's how Klay Thompson described his 44-point outburst last night, where he tied an NBA record, making his first 10 three-point attempts en route to the Warriors' blowout win over the Lakers. Now, Klay scored 23 of those 44 in the third quarter, and in the game, he didn't attempt a single free throw. Shacked in a fool, even Steph Curry is capable of a starring role.
And look out, Curry slipped. And now shoots for 3.
Yeah, it's like a kid walking to a candy store and the whole half court empty. I was gonna try something real nice that I haven't tried before. Lord wouldn't let me do it.
From our West Coast NBA.com bureau, Sean Powell joining us tonight. More memorable, Sean, Steph Curry starring role in Shacked in a Fool, or Klay's 44 hitting his first 10 threes?
Well, Klay's record may not last until next month, because he could beat it. Steph could beat it. But seeing Steph Curry stumble on the floor, this is a guy throughout his entire career hasn't slipped on or off the court. So it looked pretty weird. I mean, we're used to laughing at Steph doing something on his defender, rather than seeing Steph do something on his own. And by the way, if I'm Steph, I'm kind of blaming Klay Thompson for that. Clay was flashing all night with those 3 pointers, it was bound to be the West.
I see what you did there, Sean. That's nice. Yeah, that's nice. Better than some who are trying to blame the Staples Center rink that was out earlier in the day. Come on, Steph said that had nothing to do with it. It was just simply him being a human being, folks. Basketball players are human beings. Watch yourself. Thankfully, he didn't get hurt. All right, Sean. Warriors, now, listen, when you win 8 straight, it always looks fun. Having DeMarcus Cousins in there, maybe an added element. Are we now seeing the Warriors hit their stride and playing with that joy we haven't seen in quite a while?
Well, we're seeing the Warriors go after this right here. And by the way, Jared, this
is that the real trophy?
It's not up to scale.
Okay,
I don't want you to be fooled.
Okay.
But look, I mean, everything is happening at the right time. You're welcoming back DeMarcus Cousins. You're on this win streak. Everybody's feeling great. Klay Thompson setting records. Obviously, there's a lot of basketball left to be played. But if you're the Warriors, you have to feel good about yourself right now. Better than you felt all season. Of course, we know what they went through with Kevin Durant and Draymond Green, and then Steph Curry missed 11 games. But right now, it's all working. Of course, now they're about to go on the road. They have to play in Indiana. They have to play in Boston. And by the way, a week from Saturday, they will have to play at home against the Lakers, and we're assuming LeBron James will be back for that game. And we know what happened to them on Christmas Day at that very spot. If they run the table there, you got to like it.
I'm just mystified by the fact that you got props. I didn't realize our budget extended to buying you toys to play with while you're on the program, Sean.
Well, I haven't turned in the expense yet, so the boss is going to be there.
Don't count on it from prior experience. 10 before tip number 3, a stat stuffer. Hey, the Lakers losing last night to the Warriors. LA now 5-9 without LeBron James in the lineup, and no word on when LeBron's going to return. Luke Walton says probably not going to be Thursday against Minnesota on TNT because Luke hasn't seen LeBron in any contact play just yet. But take a look at this schedule. After these 3 home games, technically they're still at home against the Clippers, but the schedule heading into All-Star break, Warriors, Pacers, Celtics, Sixers, and then you finish up this brutal stretch against an Atlanta team that's scrappy and plays tough. Listen, how much longer can this Laker team afford right now in the 9th spot in the West to be without LeBron James before you seriously have to say Lakers are in danger of making the playoffs or missing the playoffs?
Well, I don't think we'll get to that point. Of course, muscle pulls are tricky. Hamstrings more, and particularly when you're talking about players in their 30s. We know LeBron James has been indestructible up to this point, but he's human after all. But I think he'll be back for those games. If I'm probably the happiest people are those who are holding tickets for those road games, because there's been some nervous times with LeBron in this injury. They feel that they're going to see LeBron on the court. But yeah, you're right. I mean, when you look at where the Lakers are in the Western Conference standings, and there's some very good teams that they're behind. Someone's not going to make it. My money is on LeBron and the Lakers. I think that when he comes back, everything will be well again. We've seen this with LeBron with new teams before in the past. Of course, he's never been hurt. But I think he'll come back with a message to send. And I think the Lakers will be fine. But when that happens, who knows?
All right, another story that's been buzzing around is the status of one Carmelo Anthony after being dealt, although it's kind of been in a holding pattern, the trade to Chicago from Houston. Carmelo Anthony ultimately will be waived, we think, by the Bulls unless he is traded, but he certainly won't play for Chicago at any point. Is it just inevitable that at some point this season Carmelo Anthony is going to be a member of the Lakers?
Yeah, I kind of think so. I think the Lakers could probably open up the spot and bring in. Of course, he has a great relationship with LeBron James, but I can't see him playing a significant role with this team. Probably like Tyson Chandler, he's going to get a few minutes here and there. But by and large, he's going to be on the bench. And if you're Carmelo Anthony, you have to ask yourself this question. Is this how you want to end your career? The guy's going to go to the Hall of Fame. He's a great guy. But if you're sitting on the end of the bench and you're one of the aging players, I mean, that's sort of like being the old man in the club. I mean, does he really want that? Is that the way he wants to go out? I just can't see him at this point playing significant minutes.
All right, well, we lost Sean Powell there for a moment. We'll get him back. We'll come back after a short timeout, get you up to speed on what's going on north of the border with Kawhi Leonard. Why is he out tonight and tomorrow night, missing a 3rd and 4th straight game? He's healthy. Josh Lewenberg joins us live from Toronto to explain load management.